Hi, my name is Vanessa, and this is my testimony. By the time I was 10, I had discovered that my mother was addicted to crack cocaine. And I remember when I found out, I confronted her, and she got really angry, and she threw shoes at me and had slapped me around, which was typical of her to do on any other normal day anyways. I went to school the next day because I said this, I had had enough. I told a friend told the teacher told the police, and before I knew it, by the time I got home from school, Children's Aid was there to take me from my home. One foster home, 3 group homes later, and being in the system, I started to just tell myself that it was easier to be at home and deal with a mom who was addicted to drugs, 2 younger sisters that didn't have anybody to take care of them. So I begged and pleaded with the system to let me go back home, even though I knew it wouldn't be the right place, but it was the only place that I still felt safest. By the time I had hit 15, going on 16, clubbing, drugs, drinking, partying, not really a care in the world, and still knowing of God, but not knowing God and having a relationship with Him, I looked up at the stars and asked for a better life because I knew I wanted more than the life that I had. And little did I know in the background, God was actually there listening. So fast forward now, and I've met a really awesome man who is my husband today. And it was, to me, God's blessing. My stars were answered. They answered what I was talking about. At that time, I didn't realize it was God, but now I do. And everything was perfect, at least at that age. How much more difficult could it possibly get? So we dated, I got pregnant, and to me it was the greatest gift that I could have asked for or wanted, because it meant that I was free of living at home with nothing but turmoil and having to pick up the broken pieces day in and day out. From the time I left my mom's and went on my own, my now husband and I moved in together, and life was just amazing and blessings. I never really thought where money came from, where vacations came from, where cars, trips, boats, and just all the good things that were happening in my life. I never questioned anything. And I had tremendous love and support from whatever little bit of family I had and my now new family. By the time I hit 30, settled in a career, moving into my second house, second baby, all the love and support in the world that one could ask for from a family. And I got the worst news, at least it was to me. My grandfather had been diagnosed with cancer. And I remember the day that I found out. I didn't even really know how to deal with it, but I did the best that I could and figured I'd been through worse. This will be okay, it's all gonna be over. Surgeries later, chemotherapy, radiation, second surgery, and he passed away. And even though I have, at this time still, all the love and support from my family, my children, my extended family, my husband, it wasn't enough. I, again, felt that God had just didn't want anything good for me. He took another person out of my life that I loved, and I had no way of getting him back. About 3 years into it was when I couldn't handle it anymore. I couldn't handle having to take on the responsibility of my grandmother, my siblings, their kids. I have a husband who is there in support of every step of the way, and children who love me and support and understand, but yet I still had given up. I was angry at life. I was angry with God. I was angry with the world. And then it was that Sunday when I finally came to KICC. And as I walked in, I kind of, in the back of my mind, felt everybody would just be looking at me, nothing but a sinner. So I sat at the back like everybody else does. And I remember Pastor was doing an altar call, and a lady had come up from one side. And she didn't even make it to the altar, and she hit the floor. And I looked at my husband and I was like, yeah, right, this can't possibly be real. And he said, when you know God's love and when you feel God, you'll know. And as scared as I was, I got up and I went to the altar. But I gave my life to God that day, and I hit the floor. I don't know what came over. I was just shaking, crying. And as soon as Pastor took my hand and asked, I surrendered to God, I hit the floor and I just started speaking in tongues for the first time. The words hallelujah, he just kept saying to me, hallelujah, hallelujah. And I'd never heard these words before, except for somewhere in the back of my mind, but just thought that it was gibberish. I can't really explain how anybody else could feel with that love, but to me at that moment, that interaction, knowing that it didn't matter that I was a sinner, didn't matter how much partying I did or how much wrong, God still loved me and showed me that I'm his child, and no matter what, there's love, there's grace, and there's so much joy. The only other real burst of joy that stands out to me, honestly, the most was I still, to be honest, had one foot on both sides. Pastor was giving a message on sin, and he asked for those of us who were not sinners or did not sin to be the first to cast the first stone. And I remember this whole rush of joy came over my body like I had never felt before. I pushed my husband out of the chair onto the floor, and I went running up to the altar, just crying out that I was a sinner, because it didn't matter anymore. I didn't have to feel shame. I didn't have to feel embarrassment. I didn't have to worry what anybody thought, because I knew that God loved me and had forgiven me and showed me that even though I still wasn't quite ready in there, just keep coming, keep coming. Last year, I got baptized, which was another awesome and amazing experience. Today, I can't even describe the blessings that I have. I can't count them anymore because they just keep coming and coming and coming and coming. And KICC is a big part of that. The joy that I have when I come to church every Sunday it's amazing. And to me, I've learned that we're all God's children, and he wants us. It's just a matter of when we're ready to go home. And I'm home, and I like being at home with God, and I continue to grow, and I've learned how to be a better person. I've learned more love, more grace, and I've learned that even if I make mistakes, God still has love and grace for me the same way that he can have for anybody else. If he can do it for me, he can do it for anybody.